Emily says another truth here on YouTube. I hope that you're doing well and that you're taking great care of yourselves. Today I'll be discussing Katie Joy, as always. Well, not as always. It's very hard to do Katie Joy videos. It's really hard to talk about this because the more that I'm learning, the more I'm understanding that she is deeply, deeply psychologically broken, or that's my opinion, that's my observation. Now, everything I say here are just my opinions. It's just my opinion about what's going on, and those are based on my interpretation of the facts, what I observe, my perspectives, and my thoughts, and sometimes I include the thoughts of other people as important talking points so you know at least where I'm getting some of this information from. Now, in this video, I do not want anybody to use law enforcement to harass anybody here. But there are some things that are very clear. Other people have made it clear, people who are more knowledgeable about this situation than I am. But I can see some of those patterns on my own. There is nothing I really say that stands out, but it's still my thoughts and my expression. And while I might agree with some people, I may not agree with everything. So just take everything I say here based on my opinions. I will try to be as respectful as I can, because now if I'm understanding that she is this sick, I'm still going to call her out, but there are other things I'm not going to do, because I personally think she's a ticking time bomb, so to speak. And I think she puts up a front, but she is one of the most insecure people that I've come across on this side of YouTube, though there are plenty of people like that. Through examining some of the stuff that Nene posted through her FOIA request information she's so kindly provided and allowed us to incorporate into our own material. There was an opinion, and I cannot remember who, I don't want to call that person out, that it's quite possible Katie was using law enforcement and calling the cops on herself. Now, at some point, I'm focusing on this because I think Nene really put it in a good way, that there is an established timeline of Katie Joy's behavior and interaction with law enforcement. And I'm not sure any of the stuff that Katie Joy is going through, but knowing how much Katie Joy attention seeks, I would not be surprised that she is the one calling the cops on herself in different ways. I do believe that she's experienced some level of harassment. But she has created situations where she has become the main character of her own false narrative about herself. And I think that she has taken a lot of people's experiences, their lives, and have kind of melded those in with her own life. Now, I don't think Katie really has a sense of her own identity. I think that is something in which she has a deficit that, to me, represents some kind of psychological issue, personality issue, where she didn't get enough of that attention at some point in her life. I explained this in my last video. I would not be surprised, and that she had taken a lot of Suzanne's life and experience and incorporated that into her own life. Now, recently, just yesterday, in fact, I went to Balls 2.0 Instagram page, and there was a post that she reposted, a screenshot that she posted, and I didn't understand that this woman existed, this particular woman. Let me go and find that thing here. Hang on one second. So I'm just looking at the screenshot that I took from my own reference. So it was a tweet, and it was by Sarah M. Wilson replying to somebody else. You want to know why KJ freaked out when Kate Swenson from Finding Cooper's Voice in Kate's new book, Forever Boy, at Ellie Rod 8. I have a suspicion KJ plagiarized at least parts of Cooper and Kate's journey. The book is the compilation of years of Kate's blog entries, including this one. Okay, now this will go into the community post for your reference. So there is a part here where it sounds like, a piece out of Without a Crystal Ball's own story, and how she had adapted that, perhaps into her own life or in a particular part of her life. I'm not certain what she actually plagiarized here, but in the conversation, Sarah M. Wilson said, like 80% of Swenson's blog book was stolen by KJ. So I'm assuming KJ adapted some stuff from the blog. Now, I am going to buy the book. I am going to read the book myself. It's going to take me a little while to report back on that, because I have a lot of other things, 2 other major projects I'm doing that I've been stressing out about for a while now. But I would be interested. Firstly, listen, I'm not going to take someone's story and use it as a means to criticize Katie Joy. And I will explain why. I don't want to do that. I don't want to use other people's stories to corner KJ, because those stories stand on their own. Now, I have a child, an adult child, who was recently evaluated for autism, and it appears that they have autism, after all. So we are working together to do things a little differently, so that my autistic child feels at peace with things. So I'm not going to change the way that I do things with my child, but just the way that I just have more of an insight now as to what's going on. And it's an extremely powerful time for my child, because now it's like a sense of peace and relief for them, because they struggled. Although I took my child to pediatrician all the time, not all the time, but for their well visits and vaccinations and when they were sick and stuff. But it was clear, I did not know, and no one picked it up, in school or anything, but autism's a huge spectrum. So, um, reading this, I might find some insight into some things. So, it would be for me personally, okay, but and to help my child, but I'm also interested in how much of this Katie Joy did take and incorporate into her own vlogs, in her own persona, her own presentation of herself. But we know that KJ has an established history of doing this. I'm not surprised. To me, this is indicative of a personality issue or a certain type of personality. And um, KJ could be in some trouble with that or not, but KJ is it's seemingly a very, very troubled woman. So it's no wonder. And it's like, at this point, personally for me, what is there more to talk about? Because there is an established pattern of this behavior. YouTube isn't going to do anything. It's funny that they did finally demonetize that fucking weirdo Nader El Shami, whatever, of foodie beauty lore. They finally demonetized him, but it's not going to stop him from trying to glom on his partner's channel or somebody else's channel, because these people are parasitic. They have parasitic behavior, and KJ has that parasitic behavior. That a lot of what she has done has been directly taken from the experiences of others, and she's made up stories about herself. She could write fiction and she'd probably do well, you know. um, it's amazing that with Katie Joy, with the amount of, I would say, creativity, and I say creativity, that's in, she could have used that for her benefit. She could have used that in a positive way. It wasn't lucrative. It wasn't fun. I do think she gets a thrill out of people being injured or harmed. I I do think she has troubled relationships. That's another sign. And she has troubled relationships with her own family members, and she would throw them under the bus if it meant to save her ass. And she would use them as sort of human shield to detract away from her poor behavior, so that she can garner some sympathy. Okay. Um, just because somebody has a family, that doesn't mean that that individual responsible for anything shouldn't be held to account for that. There might be some special circumstances given the situation, but Katie Joy didn't need to plagiarize anybody. Katie Joy had her own story, but it wasn't exciting enough for her, I guess. She had to capitalize on other people's experiences. And imagine that she took so much of that, that an author of a blog had to block her for that. And I'm surprised that Katie didn't get into some legal um, situation over that. So, what do we do at this point then? um, I'll keep calling her out. I also have to grapple with my own conscience about it, because if I know that she is that troubled, I tried to get some other information to connect some of these things, but instinctively that I just think, and based on some of the stuff and instinctively in my own perspective, and I say this as my opinion, you know, she needs serious mental health and she's not getting it consistently for some reason, and she needs intensive therapy to build her life, and it's not too late, and she has to hold herself account. I mean, because if she is calling the police to fake these things, if she is saying that she was swatted because they thought Brian Laundrie was there, and why would she lie about something like that? To make her channel appear more interesting? When in fact she was having some kind of weird interaction with the police. I would never have that level of interaction. I had to go to the police department this week because of a digital crime that someone um, or somebody or some group allegedly committed against me, and I had to file another report. And I'm not sitting there having chit chats with the detective or the police as if they were my friends. It's serious business. I have to be clear, make sure my facts are together. Of course, this wasn't a call, but I'm starting to think that some of this is of Katie's own doing, and I think that the woman is delusional, and I think that her addictions are certainly in the way of her judgment, but those are also an offshoot of her um, psychological issues. I'm not saying this to feel bad for her because she needs to be called out, and she has to be held to account whether or not she agrees with it or wants it. But I don't want to be part of something where we're just I'm pushing her further into this. So I want to handle it very carefully. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this. And if anything else comes up, I'm happy to bring it up and talk about it later. Okay? Thank you so much for listening to me. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Until next time.